Although al-Qaeda's number one has been killed, the war on terror not over. In fact, some are concerned that bin Laden's death might actually cause Americans to be less safe in the short term. Joining us now from Boston is counterterrorism expert Juliette Kayyem. Juliette, we want to thank you for joining us this morning and giving us some insight on this. The question everyone wants to know, are we safe in two terms, the short term and the long term?
I think in the short term, we have to be careful and cautious that members of al-Qaeda or people affiliated or certainly who like the idea of al-Qaeda will move rather quickly to show the relevancy of the movement. And what they're going to likely do, because they can't plan big events because they're clearly being surveyed because bin Laden is dead, what they will do is plan sort of low-grade, soft target attacks. And so while there's no specific credible information, we do have to be cautious that men or women who are radicalized will just come forward in Western Europe or even the United States and try to plan just simple, sort of old-style terrorism attacks. So that is clearly the concern of top officials at the Department of Homeland Security is don't let our guard down. In the short term, people are going to try to prove their relevancy. I think in the long term, I'll be honest with you, I think the jury's still out. No one believes that this is the end of the war on terror. The death of bin Laden is a huge success, but obviously not the final blow. Our biggest concern over the last couple years has not been in Pakistan, but in Yemen, and the sort of movement within Yemen with the Arab Spring and some of the complications with the leadership in the Arab world. We've just got a very dynamic and fluid situation in the Middle East, and those tend to be situations where al-Qaeda sort of can come in, take advantage of people and governments. And so I think for the long term, the jury may still be out.
So then what is the next step then? How does bin Laden's death change the next step in the war on terror?
Well, at least in terms of the Department of Homeland Security and domestic security, I think what you are seeing, what you've clearly seen even in the last 24 hours, is a lot more activity by local and state police, by the department, in terms of just sort of making sure we know what's going on, following any big or small intelligence trails, and trying to sort of survey, in particular, the soft targets. You're always going to have incredible surveillance and protection on the hard targets, airlines, airports, mass transportation. How long that continues, will probably be anywhere from 3 to 6 months as the intelligence community can begin to get an assessment of what's going on with al-Qaeda. Abroad, I think you're probably not going to see many significant changes, at least in drone activity by the Obama administration, and in particular in some of the intelligence and counterterrorism activities in Yemen and elsewhere. We simply can't let our guard down. The death of bin Laden, is going to be a tremendous symbolic blow for supporters of him. But on the other hand, it's also a moment for them to say, sort of, we're still relevant. And the way they show relevancy is successful attacks, big or small.
You've spent some time working with the Department
Yes.
of Homeland Security and are probably privy to information that a lot of us in the general public just aren't aware of.
Right.
How many attacks, roughly, would you say, or that you could comfortably guess, are thwarted on a daily basis that the public just simply doesn't know about?
On a daily basis, I would put it over the course of a year, probably anywhere from sort of real attacks we go quite public with. So about a half dozen in the Obama administration since Secretary Napolitano came on board. In terms of the surveillance and sort of looking at people who are talking to each other, some concerns or whatever, I'd say there's anywhere from a couple dozen concerns or surveillance going on within the United States. So it's a real threat. Whether it's actionable, whether it's about to happen tomorrow, is something that we're just constantly conscious of. And one of the sort of changes in the Obama administration that was, whether it was conscious or not, is just simply trying to engage the public much more in terms of sort of help us out in terms of what you're seeing, what you're doing. Are there any concerns that you have? So most of the cases that have been thwarted in the Obama administration have been because of bystanders or friends of someone who were concerned about their activity. And that, I think, is a good thing. I actually think that engaging the public not only empowers them in this effort against terrorism, but is going to bring us much more leads.
I also want to ask you, there's talk right now from the White House about releasing one of the photographs of bin Laden after he was shot. You think this is a good idea, or is this going to inflame a potential retaliatory attacks?
I think it's probably going to be irrelevant in terms of inflaming people. I think the people who are happy or who are happy with the death of bin Laden might be pleased to see the photographs. I'm definitely torn about it. I think in the short term, the Obama administration will probably release at least one photograph simply to show proof that we did have him. But the people who are who are mad at us about the death of bin Laden might become more enraged, but they're already angry. And I think that is what we have to remember, is not everyone's applauding us right now, and that's why we have to keep our surveillance up.
All right, Juliette Kayyem, our counterterrorism expert in Boston. Juliette, thank you for your insight this morning.